Welcome back to Playing for Keeps, the business of sports. And we're here talking with Anthony Schoettle of the IBJ. And we've been talking about the collective bargaining agreement in the NFL and whether or not it's really an owner versus owner struggle, or if it is a player versus owner struggle, or is there any dissension in the player ranks because they decertified their union. They've got individual plaintiffs that are out there, and they are inserting themselves into the process as players, and they've gone to the legal system where it has been more favorable in the Northern District of Minnesota than it has been in the one out west. What is the game being played here between these two factions and these first-time negotiators, Anthony?
Well, the negotiators are a very important aspect of this because, as you remember, Gene Upshaw, who is the predecessor of DeMaurice Smith, was criticized for being too close to the NFL commissioners. Roger Goodell then came in to replace the commissioner that Gene Upshaw dealt with, and he was brought in by a constituency who very much wanted him to differentiate his legacy than his predecessor. And the same with the players. So what you have is a players executive, a players union executive, and a commissioner that were very close. Not only in true friendship, but also in negotiations and the commonalities of their viewpoints of the way they saw the NFL business world. But the players and the owners, neither one cared for that. And the owners in particular thought that they got a raw deal by the previous CBA. So they bring in Roger Goodell, this extreme faction, if you will, of NFL owners, and the extreme faction of players bring in DeMaurice Smith. So almost immediately, I mean, you see the polarization of the two sides. I also covered the Super Bowl. I went to Dallas this year, and to see the press conferences held back-to-back by the owners and the NFL execs, Roger Goodell and his posse, and then the players union and their group, the messages were polar opposite, the hostilities were freely flowing, and you could just see that this had all the makings of a prolonged, protracted, contested negotiations. So for all the people who say, oh, there's too much to let go. The preseason will cost $400 million if they miss that. And the pie is too big. Surely that they won't let greed get the best of them. The people who say that a deal will most certainly get done and a 16-game season will surely be preserved, we're not paying very close attention at the Super Bowl in Dallas. And we're not paying very close attention at the owners' meeting in 2008 and subsequent owners' meeting. I think that projection, those projections, that this is just going to be quickly resolved is just a desire to have a season and a desire for people to watch football and to do their jobs surrounding football.
Those were my indications early on, too, as well as I've reported in the public places. There is more than just difference in business philosophy here, though. There is something that's deep down and in terms of trust and lack of trust.
And I guess I want to hedge my bet first real quick. They could come to an agreement tomorrow, next week, if, and I believe only if, the players give a lot of ground. I think the owners are here and the players are here. And I don't expect an agreement to come here. I expect an agreement to come somewhere closer to here.
So, in other words, there may be some solidarity breakdown within the disassociated union.
Well, consider this. The players' average career is 4 to 5 years. So if they miss a year, that is a huge deal to them. Does Jim Irsay miss out on $43 million? Yes. But you could argue that he's in a better position to miss out on that money than as is a player. Now, there is something to add to that. If a player doesn't play a season, now you always hear that argument, well, you're taking away 20% of a player's career if he misses a season. He couldn't hardly afford to miss a season. The issue, though, is this that needs to be thought about. If a player's not playing a season, he's not getting that wear and tear. Remember Marcus Allen when he played? Yeah, and all those years he sat on the bench at Oakland. And then he came back and played for Kansas City at a high level. Why?
Exactly.
Well, he didn't have the wear and tear on his body. And the same could be said for Joe Adai or Peyton Manning, certainly the offensive and D line.
Most recently, Michael Vick.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So, I think you have to weigh all of those in. But, certainly I think both sides have a desire. I don't mean to paint a landscape that neither side has a desire to get it done, but I think agendas within those groups are varying, and I do think that you're going to see some breakage on the player side. I don't know that you'll see a total break of ranks. DeMaurice Smith is going to have to be masterful in his management of that. You know, think about this. There's thousands of players to be managed, from the highest level, the guys with the biggest mouths, to the guys who are barely off the practice squad and who really need the money. And D. Smith has to manage all of that. Roger Goodell only has to manage 32 owners. Big egos, yes. Big pocketbooks, absolutely. But 32 guys. What would you rather do, manage 32 guys or a couple of thousand young people with agendas so far varying that you can't imagine?
Depends on the revenue split, I suppose. When you're looking at this situation, it sometimes makes you wonder why the players have taken the direction of decertification all the way. If you really take their argument, it's an antitrust argument. They really don't want the end result of their strategy. If you really look at it logically, by going to the federal courts on an antitrust matter, it appears that if you ultimately accept their end game of and success of that from the Players Association side, that they would really not want that result, that of being a free market where free enterprise would take over control and rules versus that of a federation, if you will, that you have in the NFL. What are your views on that?
Well, remember, one thing that the Wild Wild West brings, not only no ceiling but no floor. So you could get a guy like Al Davis, a real wild card, who says, you know, I'm going to get guys off the street to play for $30,000. I mean, I might have Peyton Manning as my quarterback, but my O-line's making $30,000, $40,000 a year. And nobody wants that. And they all want, you know, a structure in place that guarantees minimum salary, guarantees high-end salaries, also guarantees benefits for players once they're retired. All of these things are very pertinent issues that the players want, and the players realize they can only get under a collective bargaining agreement and wouldn't get under just an absolute 100% free market, because as you know, under that, you know, it's the rich get richer, I think, and the poor get poorer. And a lot of guys in their retirement are really going to be hosed.
Some of the other anomalies, it seems to me, that they're here lately, promotion of health and safety. You know, the rules committee and the competition committee are invoking things, particularly on the concussion issue and others. But one of the solutions that they're driving for is not only 18 games, but having them on a Thursday and having a regular slate of Thursday, all for the NFL Network to make more money. How do they reconcile the difference between safety and adding more wear and tear on the human body?
I guess the question is, Milt, to a lot of people is it safety or is it marketing? I mean, are they really looking for a true safer product, or are they just trying to market to the public a safer product? You know, that's a very complicated question and dilemma that they face, because basically football, all the way back from the days of the flying wedge, was sold as a violent product. And you know, sometimes we hate to admit it, but a lot of times we tune in to see the big hits. I mean, think about the ESPN coverage. They have their, you know, 10 greatest hits and all of these things. So, you know, the game has long been marketed on that type of violence.
Or he was jacked up.
That's right. That's exactly right. And so, you know, how do you square that? I mean, I don't think anybody wants to see the Darryl Stingleys of the world, guys getting paralyzed, or guys getting Mike Utley's getting paralyzed, or, you know, God forbid, people dying on the field. But at the same time, this isn't two-hand touch football. So I expect the owners to take money where money presents itself. The Thursday night slate is a very interesting example. They do one of two things. They either leverage the NFL Network with that, or they sell that for another couple of $1 billion. And remember, Roger Goodell and the NFL owners themselves have projected that the NFL will double its revenue within 10 years. So they're going to look to take money wherever they can, be that Thursday night games or expanding the regular season by 2 games. I think that they're going to try to do that under the guise of safety. I don't know that those two square, but I think money wins out.
They're going to do this over an extended period of time on a contract. Some want 4 years, some want 6 years, some want 10 years, and they would have to contemplate what the difference would be in the new television deal that came over that span of years. This is so interesting that I want to keep on talking about that before we get to the NBA. We're going to take a short break right now on Playing for Keeps. I am your host, Milt Thompson.